This video will be presenting the role of each member in a design team. This is the list of our team members. Construction. Construction is a process of creating and building structures to real property. It starts with planning, design, and financing and continues until the project is built and ready for use. It involves design team and construction team. The design team is most commonly employed by the property owner. Once the design is completed, a number of construction companies may be asked to make a bid for the work, either based on the drawings or bills of quantities provided by the quantity surveyor on behalf of the client. Following evaluation of bids, the owner typically awards a contract to the most cost-efficient bidder. Large-scale construction is a feat of human multitasking. For the successful execution of project, effective planning is essential by a design team including project manager, architect, engineers, quantity surveyors, financial advisors, and other consultants. Every consultant has played his own roles in the pre-contract stage towards success. The duties of land surveyor include carrying out initial surveys and environmental impact assessments on potential sites to assess whether construction plans are workable. Their duties also include using surveying instruments and global positioning system, also known as GPS, to chart exact coordinates of site features, determine property boundaries, and to measure the shape of the land. Their duties also include producing digital images of sites and mapping land use with satellite photography, gathering data and using geographic information systems (GIS) to analyze and interpret site features for civil engineering and construction projects. Land surveyors also play a role in monitoring land movement and subsidence costs during construction project or by natural processes. Their role also include drafting 2D and 3D charts and maps using computer-aided design software and other cartographic techniques. Architect. The architect is a grand designer who creates a firm of body of a building. A building usually begins with an idea and concepts in the architect's mind, but the architect doesn't just design. He or she is the one who transforms the specification from the developers into working blueprint. He or she makes sure that the building complies with the regulatory and technical requirements while keeping in mind the considerations, which is the materials, functionality, aesthetics, and the environment impact. But the architect cannot work alone. He or she needs to work with others to translate the master blueprint into physical building.
Civil and Structural Engineer. The civil and structural engineer is the math and science expert that produces the structural designs, setting the bones and joint to form the body of the building. As CSS engineer, he or she need to decide how to build a solid frame and determine the location and size at every beam and column in the building in an environmentally sustainable manner. In other words, CNS engineer is responsible for creating practical and safe structure that can withstand any that the weather might bring. For example, the wind, sun, the rain, and temperatures change that a building can be sustained.
Mechanical and electrical engineer. An M&E engineer is an expert responsible to manage the planning, design, construction, and maintenance of various mechanical systems including heating, ventilation, and air conditioning (HVAC), and rain gutter system in buildings and structure. Every modern building needs electricity, lights, air conditioning, and ventilation system to become a living and breathing and habitable place. An M&E engineer is a person to perform the evaluation and inspection of mechanical engineering projects to ensure that standards and requirements are met. In other words, to making sure the official use of energy, water, and quality for the building. Interior design. Aesthetics are an important component of any interior design project, but the professional interior designer focuses on much more than appearance. In fact, professional interior designers receive training on building technology, ergonomics, environmental issues, and local building and fire codes, in addition to studying design fundamentals. They bring together technical expertise and a comprehensive understanding of design to enhance the function and quality of interior spaces. A designer's role includes analyzing clients' needs, goals, and life and safety requirements, integrating findings with knowledge of interior design, formulating preliminary design concepts that are aesthetic, appropriate, functional, and in accordance with codes and standards, developing and presenting final design recommendations, collaborating with other licensed practitioners in the technical areas of mechanical, electrical, and load-bearing design as required for regulatory approval, preparing and administering bids and contract documents as the client's agent, and lastly, reviewing and evaluating design solutions during implementation and upon completion.
Finance advisor. Construction projects can suffer from preventable finance problems. Underbids happen when builders ask for too little money to complete the project. Secondly, cash flow problems when the present amount of funding cannot cover the current cost for labor and materials. Fraud is a problem in many fields, but is notoriously prevalent in the construction field.
Therefore, financial planning for a project is very important, intended to ensure that a solid plan with adequate safeguards and contingency plans are in place before the project is started, and is required to ensure that the plan is properly executed over the life of the project. There are three kinds of financial advisors likely participating in creating an overall plan for the financial management of the building construction project, and these are the mortgage bankers, accountants, quantity surveyor, or estimators. The presence of the mortgage banker is highly likely, even in relatively small projects, since the owner's equity in the property is the most obvious source of funding for a building project. Accountants act to study the expected monetary flow over the life of the project and to monitor the payouts throughout the process, while quantity surveyors or estimators apply expertise to relate the work and materials involved to a proper valuation. Quantity surveyor. For every project, there must be someone to take care of the money issue. The QS is the one to manage the cost of the building from the initial calculation to the final figures. She must be skilled in project, the balancing, analyzing the number, assessing the risk, preparing the tenders and contracts. That's a critical role, consolidating all the information and numbers to come out with the tender specifications and contracts. All this while ensuring that everything make the required standard and quality.
Manage all costs relating to building and civil engineering project from the initial calculation to the final figure. Secondly, minimize the cost of a project and enhance value for money, while still achieving the required standard and quality. Lastly, when the project is in progress, quantity surveyor keep track of any variation to the contract that may affect costs and create report to show profitability, give regular feedback to client in terms of budget or cash flow. Environment impact assessment is a study to identify, predict, evaluate, and communicate information about the impact on the environment of a proposed project and to detail out the mitigating measure prior to project approval and implementation.
EIA procedures. Preliminary assessment of all prescribed activities. Detailed assessment of those prescribed activities for which significant residual environmental impacts have been predicted in preliminary assessment. Review of assessment reports. Rules and responsibilities. Prescribed activities of the EIA. Monitoring and enforcement in the post-EIA. Prohibition, restriction, and control of pollution. Monitoring of river pollution and water quality. Implementation of aquaculture development zone. Aquaculture licensing. enforcement and monitoring of aquaculture premise based on conditions imposed in a permit or license, import and export of fish. Project Manager. As the actual construction starts, someone has to ensure the smooth running of the project. The PM's work revolves around three elements, which are time, cost, and quality. He and she then becomes the key of the whole project once the construction has begun. Organizing the resources to turn plans for a new building into reality, and planning the time frame for all the necessary tasks, getting the project started from the initial stage of drafting to the final stages of project, and lastly ensuring the project gets completed on time and within the budget are also the role of a project manager. So, once a building is completed, the work is done and people can move into the building.